customization, and the quiet cage. You open a dashboard and everything is already decided. The notifications you see, the updates that rise to the top, the meeting agenda that makes sense. Then you walk into a room and realize you and your neighbor are living in two different versions of the same day. Personalization often looks like choice, but its impact is a narrowing of what you can reasonably notice, until customization stops being a preference and starts functioning like a cage. The mechanism is plain when we name the incentives. A platform, a workplace tool, a content feed, even a shopping site benefits when you stay longer, click more, and return sooner. Those outcomes are measurable. Surprise, shared reality, and slow understanding are not. So the system learns to optimize what it can count. Personalization begins with consent-shaped language. Pick your interests, mute topics, follow certain updates, set your preferences. At first, that can increase access and reduce harm. Less noise, fewer irrelevant alerts, fewer interruptions. But then the feedback loop tightens. Every click becomes a signal. Every pause becomes a vote. Every quick exit becomes a penalty. The system rewards what keeps you engaged and suppresses what makes you hesitate, disagree, or feel uncertain. Over time, the system does not merely reflect your choices, it trains them. It offers the options it can predict you will accept, because prediction reduces risk for the system and increases efficiency for its operators. The more accurate the prediction, the less you encounter what cannot be predicted. Unfamiliar viewpoints, inconvenient context, people outside your usual circle, the awkward complexity of a shared world. There is also an explicit constraint built into personalized environments: limited surface area. A home screen, an inbox, a timeline, a top priorities list, only so many items fit. Something must be excluded. Exclusion is not neutral. It becomes a hidden policy, and the policy is enforced by ranking. Here's the trade-off. The more tailored the experience, the less room there is for the unchosen. Tailoring lowers friction, but it can also lower agency by making alternatives costly to find. You can still search, still browse, still opt out, yet the path is longer, the settings are buried, the defaults are sticky. In practice, effort becomes a gate. So who benefits and who bears the cost? The system benefits: higher engagement, higher retention, smoother metrics, fewer complaints about irrelevance. Advertisers, sellers, and any organization chasing measurable performance benefit from predictable attention. The costs land on the user and also on the community around the user. The user bears the cost of narrowed exposure and a reduced sense of what else might be true. The community bears the cost when common reference points erode. Coworkers arrive at the same meeting with different key facts. Neighbors interpret the same event through different filtered frames. Families struggle to talk because every topic is pre-sorted into agreement or conflict. The cage, then, is not locked bars. It is a corridor of convenience where the walls keep moving inward. Name the cost, not just the benefit. When exposure to difference becomes rare, dignity gets quietly redefined. Other people stop appearing as full agents with reasons you might not share and start appearing as obstacles, caricatures, or background noise. That is a harm even when no one intends it. Intent is not impact. Agency also shifts. We tend to treat choice as a personal virtue. If the option exists somewhere, we assume responsibility rests entirely on the individual. But systems distribute responsibility through defaults, rankings, and friction. If the system makes one path effortless and another path exhausting, it is shaping behavior while claiming neutrality. And attention is the currency that makes this work. What you repeatedly see becomes what feels real. What you rarely see becomes what feels extreme, suspicious, or impossible. Shared reality is not a grand theory. It is the simple ability to point at the same thing and begin from similar facts. When personalization replaces that, relationships inherit a new tax. Every conversation starts with rebuilding the ground. A humane system does not only ask, "What do you like?" It also asks, "What do you need to encounter to remain in contact with others as full humans?" Not to force agreement, but to preserve the possibility of understanding without humiliation. Notice where your day arrives pre-ranked, which notifications you treat as urgent, which updates feel invisible, which people become always right or always wrong before you hear them. Consider how often "this is just what I prefer" is also "this is what the system made easy." Name the moments when convenience reduced your exposure to surprise, and when that reduction reduced your patience, your curiosity, or your sense of shared ground. And notice too where responsibility sits, not only in your choices, but in the constraints and defaults that made some choices cheap and others expensive. Responsibility is distributed, not dissolved. A customized life can still be a constrained life, and seeing the constraint is the first quiet form of responsibility.